Hello, I'm Martin Simpson. I'm here at the Hudson Records Listening Club. We're going to be playing this, Rooted, which is my last solo record, which I made with the lovely Andy Bell, who is interviewing me here today. I have my book with me, which is the notes of the sessions, and we're going to play the first track. And the first track is a song that I wrote. It's called Trouble Brought Me Here. And in common with 7 of the songs on this record, it was recorded at the Foundry in Sheffield. And it was recorded actually on the 13th of February in 2018. And I couldn't sing to save my life. I had really bad sinusitis and I'd had it for weeks. Couldn't shake it. So the fantastic musicians who play on this track, they rehearsed and rehearsed with me kind of grunting my way through it, and they learned it. They knew exactly how it worked. I gave them maps, and we sat around and we played it live together. So this is me playing, I'm actually playing a filed guitar with a DeArmond Soundhole pickup into a little Fender amp, and also playing live into mics, overdubbed the vocal afterwards and put on various other things. But the strings and the guitar and the accordion were all recorded live by Mr. Bell. And I really love the sound of this song. This is called Trouble Brought Me Here.
I dreamed a child by the road with a basket filled with bones, a face as hard as black and white, with troubles not his own. Troubles not his own, poor boy, troubles not his own. A face as hard as black and white, with troubles not his own. What kind of love has brought me here? What kind of love would leave me here with a broken heart, to sorrow and to grieve? Sorrow and to grieve, poor boy, sorrow and to grieve. Leave me here with a broken heart, to sorrow and to grieve. It was trouble brought me here. Trouble from the start. Some are born with a silver spoon. I was born with a broken heart. Born with a broken heart, poor boy. Born with a broken heart. Some are born with a silver spoon. I was born with a broken heart. I dreamed a child by the road with a basket filled with bones, a face as hard as black and white, with troubles not his own. Troubles not his own, poor boy, troubles not his own. A face as hard as black and white, with troubles not his own.
John Smith's playing on this just tells me why it is that I use other people, you know, because I would never play what he plays on this at all.
Yeah.
love this. The strings on the outro.
Little bits of cymbal. Yeah, the John's guitar on that's so organ-like, isn't it? You know,
it's right across everything else. It's great, John. I mean, everybody. The thing about this record that makes me really happy is that everybody's playing on it is so good and so appropriate and sympathetic and surprising too.
Yeah. So maybe like a bit of background on the session was like, it was pretty mental 7 days or whatever, wasn't it, at the Foundry, when you couldn't sing, and then we just had like everybody in the same room, weren't you? And even you singing was in the same room as everybody else.
Yeah, I mean it's
not singing, marking it out kind of thing, and playing guitar and
all those tracks those first 7 tracks were played live in the studio. Everybody had some separation. I seem to recall that I was in a kind of bunker with my guitars and what have you.
Yeah.
And everybody else was spread out around, and we could all see each other, but it was all done live. So I think I was looking at it and thinking about it, because this is my book. You see, I have one of these books on the go all the time, and this is the sessions from Rooted. And so I know, for instance, what was done live, where, if any, repairs were done. And I think there are literally 2 repairs on the guitar. On these initial 7 tracks, there were 2 edits, I think, on guitar.
There wasn't much, was there?
No, that was it. There was a note on Queen Jane that completely drove me nuts. And I thought I'd done something wrong, and so we edited it, and then I discovered that we hadn't done it wrong, so we went back to the original.
Yeah, I remember that. Yeah. Here's your bunker. Just looking on my phone for a picture.
Oh, have you got a picture of the bunker?
I should probably post it.
There it is, Bunkerville, yeah.
That was the bunker. You got the amp in the background.
Yeah, well, that actually...
We already used that on the mandola, didn't we?
No.
Did we have on the guitar?
Yeah, in fact, fool me. Sorry. Where is it? Trouble Brought Me. That was played on the filed acoustic with the big mics, but also using the de-Armand soundhole pickup into the amp. So
yeah.
That's there's a lot of guitar tracks on there. I mean a lot of guitar channels, not tracks, really.
Yeah. I'm just having a search for other photos on my phone. I shall show you them as we go along.
Okay, good.
And we first did that track actually.
2? Well, that's there now. Are we going on to track 2?
Well, I was just going to say that track, Trouble, we actually did it, didn't we, for that film?
Yeah,
on the banjo in a different kind of, and it was equally as good. In a different way, it was great. You know, it was a really good version, but totally different. Interesting, like how what a 1.5, 2 year gap kind of totally changed the.
Yeah, I think on the film, it was much slower and much darker. And when we came to do it for the record, that whole intro and outro, which also became the fills between the verses, that was something that had developed on the guitar and turned into like a major feature. And I have to say, I love the way the strings and everybody they come in and they swell and they push the feel of that. It has slightly Indian classical kind of thing going on with it.
Yeah.
You know, not that the guitar's doing anything like that at all, but the overall effect. And it makes me really happy. I really like the atmosphere of it.
Yeah. Cool. Should we go for track 2?
Let's do it. Track 2. This is from a later session at Woodworm Studios. And this is played live, me and Ben and John Smith. This is from Jackson C. Frank, and this is played on Jackson C. Frank's guitar, on which he recorded the album Blues Run the Game. It's a 1948 Martin D28, a very storied guitar. And this is what it wanted to play.
Kimby wants a $9 shawl. Kimby wants a $9 shawl. She wants a $9 shawl, but I need a Mackinac. Kimby wants a $9 shawl. Honey, where you been so long? Honey, where you been so long?
Great, the bass with the tempo pushing.
I've been in
Yeah, everybody, I mean, to say this is live, and we just rehearsed it there and then played it. And I love the feel of it, the way that Ben and John play across it. It's just beautiful.
Honey, where you been so long? Honey, where you been so long? I've been in your state pen, and I gotta go back again. Honey, where you been so long? Kimby, let your hair hang down. Kimby, let your hair, let it hang down. Oh, let your hair hang down. Come the morning, I'll be gone. Kimby, let your hair hang down. Kimby wants a $9 shawl. Kimby wants a $9 shawl. She wants a $9 shawl, but I need a Mackinac. Kimby wants a $9 shawl.
Yeah. Chris Weil and Julie Matthews singing the bejesus out of that on that last go round. I was just looking at my notes. That was recorded at Woodworm Studios, and as I said, it was recorded live. And yes, indeed. And John Smith was playing.
Is that guitar there? It was that one that is the Jackson C.
That's the Martin up there. Yeah. John was playing. He'd borrowed a 1961 Gibson SG Les Paul, which he was playing through my magnetone. And I think it sounds amazing. It's not at all what I would have expected him to bring to the session, but it was really cool. And it's just, he's a great great player of that kind of minimal accompaniment. It's just really, really great, I think. And Ben Nichols, of course, is a god.
I think we were using...
we were indeed using...
the Strymon on it.
The Strymon El Capistan, which is a wonderful creation.
Excuse my fingernails, everybody. They're not as good as Martin's.
Oh, actually, at the moment, excuse my fingernails. Check that out. Look, that one, if you'll excuse me waggling that finger at you, is completely gone. The nail is had it. I've just repaired it, but the end of my finger is non-functional. So I've been playing with finger picks. It's great.
Yeah, so the whole thing was recorded at 3 different studios, wasn't it? It was done at the Foundry in Sheffield.
Yeah, Woodworm.
Woodworm, those were the 2 main sessions, and then we went to Tesla in Healy in Sheffield just to do some overdubs and bits and bobs, didn't we?
Yeah.
And we did some in your living room as well.
Oh, we did, yeah. Well, it's nice. When the buses aren't going by, it's a good sounding room.
Yeah.
So, back to the initial sessions. The next song is Born Human. This is written by a friend of mine called David Lynn Grimes, and I learnt this song from him years ago when I lived in California, and I hadn't sung it in probably 20 years. And somebody sent me a message saying, you really should do that song Born Human. And then somebody else sent me a film of me playing a TV show, like a closed channel TV show in New Jersey. I can't remember what year it was, but it was a hell of a long time ago. And on it was me playing Born Human on the guitar. And I heard it and thought, well, that is such a great song and it's so right for now. And so I relearned it, but I learned it on the banjo and then taught it to the guys. And this was an interesting one because I think it's the only one that gave Mr. Bell any trouble as a mix, because there was so much going on in this track, in a sense. The interplay between the banjo, the fiddle, the cello, and the box, and then eventually the other instruments which went in. It was not exactly a standard old-timey music track. So you had a bit of a fight with it, didn't you, Andy?
Yeah, I did. I think Ben's bass pulled it together on this one, didn't it? Mm-hmm. Like, I think that for the mix, it sort of, but yeah, it's quite a lot going on in it.
There is a hell of a lot going on, and it's not exactly any of it sort of laid back. The track doesn't allow you to be remotely laid back. It's really pushing. So
great backing vocals from John on it as well, isn't there? On this one.
Yeah. And also Amy came in and did some more as well. I'm just looking here. Born Human, overdub bass and backing vocals. Yep. Bass overdubs on Tuesday. And this is played on my Romero banjo. Yeah. So hit it.
I love your notes. You've got your notes book everywhere we go, and a paper calendar. Old school. Yeah,
that's right. Yeah, old school. I've got on the other side of this desk is this. I'm actually at Kit's desk here. On the other side of this desk is my desk, which is so old school. I mean, there's no computer on it. There's just a bunch of books, and there's a really good pencil sharpener and a load of pencils, all of which have really good erasers on them. Otherwise, I lose my mind if the eraser doesn't work properly when I'm transcribing and stuff. So I've got to, by the way, I do have to transcribe the banjo part for this too, so I'm not necessarily looking forward to that.
Yeah, happy Bank Holiday Friday.
Yeah, quite.
I don't know why I was born human. I'm might have been a fish or a bat, or the big sycamore in my brother's backyard that spoke to me when I fell on my back. We listened to an earthly music conjured up in ages past. The color of your skin might change tomorrow from a snow white deer to a coal black cat. I don't know why I was born human. I might have been a water rat or a thunderstorm that chases buffalo down silver trails of prairie grass. I don't know why I was born human. When you see the earth bleeding, then you know you're home at last. And when you feel your body broken, then you'll find the strength to act. I ain't no alien, I was born native. I just forgot the sacred past. But the big storm is over and I still got a heartbeat, and my breast lullaby sings home at last. Walking on this earth is only natural. We were born to roam, but not this fast. And my little girl's dreams should be as big as heaven. Even angels find their home at last. My little girl's dreams should be as big as heaven. Even angels find.
Lovely line from Liz there, isn't it?
Fabulous, yeah, really, just great. Just really, I'm so proud of everybody's playing on that, you know. Liz Hank's lines on that are just astonishing, just really beautiful. And it's not exactly made for cello, that piece, I don't think. But she's just a great musician. They're all great musicians. So, yeah, and what an appropriate song. So,
where did you get that one from?
David Lynn Grimes in California, 25 years ago. Yeah, about that. He was a fishing boat captain in Alaska, and he always said he wasn't very good at it because he liked fish too much, us people. and then the Exxon Valdez oil spill basically wrecked the place that he loved, and he worked on the cleanup after that, and I think he pretty much had a nervous breakdown, but when he came out of it, he just said, right, that's it for me, it's conservation and music for the rest of my days, and that's what he's done. And I think we're better off for it myself. It's great. Lovely fella. Speaking of lovely fellas, the next one is about a man called Ken Small, and I'm not going to go into his story because I've told it a million times, but suffice it to say that without Ken Small, we would know a great deal less about the very horrendous history of Slapton Sands during the Second World War down there in Kent. He was an amazing man, Ken Small, and he made a monument to the American soldiers who were killed during the training for the D-Day landings. And I got to know a lot about him through his son, Dean, who came to talk to me at the gig, and we've become good friends, and I've been down there quite a lot. And it warms my heart to sing this song because I think Ken really deserves a good song. So this is Ken Small. Ooh, that's a Sobel tuned down to open F, and Liz Hanks playing exquisitely.
Ken never
and
gave
drums
up.
and
He
bass.
scoured the tide line, seeking small treasure down on the shore, until the night that the storm came and tore off the seafront, and he found his life's purpose in the litter of war. Shrapnel and shell cases, buttons and badges, revealed by the storm tide, long hidden and lost, hidden and lost. Like the lives of the young men who came to this country at such a great cost. Ken followed his dreams to this place in the South Hams. He came seeking solace down on the shore, but out of the blue the dreams became nightmare, awakening darkness down on the shore. Out in the water, the fisherman told him there was something down there that should not be. Something that told him a forgotten story of young men dying in a burning sea. Determined to salvage the truth from the seafloor. 10 years of struggle it turned out to be, until the Sherman tank rolled on its own 2 tracks, without any help from the powers that be.
John Smith and Liz Hanks just playing off each other so well.
Ken sits in his car by the tank at Torcross. His window is down and he's happy to share his sandwich with starlings, his story with strangers.
Second guitar coming in there, wasn't there?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That care. You got a letter from the president, another from the witch. Poor congratulations from the privileged and the rich. And he got the D-Day mandolin from the lady in Torquay, who knew she had a gift to give, and where the gift should be. His money was gone, his marriage was broken. He sat on the seafront and he never grew old, but he found peace and treasure down on the shoreline. He found truth and healing and the story he told.
It's a great line. Yes, Tom Wright playing drums, Ben Nichols playing an early 60s Harmony H22 bass, which is, they were very, very cheap instruments. Got one little gold foil pickup on it and kind of really cheesy tuning pegs. The kind of things you'd find on a guitar, but with bigger holes in them, you know? And it's brilliant. It's a fantastic sounding instrument, I think. And he just
been
played
used
the
on
same.
all sorts of albums and stuff now. It's really cool. Yeah,
Yeah, absolutely. And I thought I might get one after hearing Ben play, because it's always good to have a nice bass guitar around. But they're actually so expensive now because people really want them. You know, they were about $40 because Ben's playing them. Yeah. Not just Ben, in fact, but Ben. Yeah.
What's interesting as well with that one was the Tom's drumming, because it was put on afterwards, after the whole track was completed. Mm-hmm. I think he was the last.
It was.
He was the last thing to go on it, wasn't he?
Speaks very well for the other people that played on it and their ability to keep time, doesn't it? It's.
I mean, all the percussion was on last, wasn't it? Because we didn't want the whole album to have, to be totally controlled by percussion and drums and stuff. So it kind of it went on at the end, and it worked really well. And we had to strip him back from bringing in too many drums into the studio and allow him only a snare and a kick and some cymbals, basically.
Yeah.
And he did great things with them.
Yeah. Yeah, well, I mean, on the next track, we're going to hear some really excellent, subtle use of percussion, I think, including a massive bass drum,
Right.
which doesn't get played a lot, but the hits on it are they're pretty earth-moving, I think. And this is
the same. This is the same drum that we were talking about in a previous listening club with Rowan.
Oh, yes.
Because Rowan Reingand's album, a lot of that was recorded at Tesla at the same studio, and the same big bass drum got used on her album as well.
Yeah, well, it's a great instrument. It's really cool. I like that. I wonder who did that have in common? Same producer, eh? This next track's from the initial sessions again. So this was recorded with me playing a Sobel banjola. It's a mandola with a 5-string banjo neck on it, and we put this into an amplifier, so it's got a bit of that going on, and it's probably got a bit of the delay on it as well, I would have thought.
Yeah,
knowing us.
Haven't heard it for a while, so
no.
Yeah, I'll have to remember
Actually,
it.
Just going back for a second, I just remembered I hadn't finished the lyrics to Ken Small when we put the rhythm track down.
No,
so,
I was going to say that as well. Yeah.
And so we put it down, and then we ended up having to edit it longer because I'd written more words, and in a sense, you know, I mean, I play it on my own now most of the time, and I play it, and it's quite a bit longer than it is on the record. You know, it feels. I wish we'd had the opportunity to stretch it out a bit, but we didn't, so it's what you get. So, back to the next track, which is Hills of Shiloh, written by Shel Silverstein, who was a wonderful writer, cartoonist, writer of children's books, comic. He wrote A Boy Named Sue. He wrote the cover of Rolling Stone and Sylvia's Mother, and that fantastic song that Marianne Faithfull recorded, which I didn't realise was initially recorded by Dr. Hook and the Medicine Show, The Ballad of Lucy Jordan. June Tabor used to sing this song when we worked together doing a set of songs inspired by or from the American Civil War. And I just always thought it was an amazing song. And Mick Pete from Derby said, "Why don't you should do that song, youth."
You're not going to do his accent, Martin.
I'm not, me duck, no. I know better than to try. But I listened to the song again, and I thought, wow, he's right, you know. You can't argue with a man from Derby who calls you me duck.
Very true.
So yeah, this was rehearsed lots in advance, and then recorded live with the strings. And I love this song. I think it's a great song.
Have you seen Amanda Blaine in the hills of Shiloh, wandering through the morning rain in the hills of Shiloh? Have you seen her at her door, listening for the cannons roar, and the man who went to war from the hills of Shiloh? Have you seen her haunted eyes in the hills of Shiloh? Have you heard her mournful cries in the hills of Shiloh?
That's sounding great there on
Seen
TV.
her running down, searching through the sleeping town in her yellowed wedding gown in the hills of Shiloh.
Vocals sounding really great on this, like really lovely and close in.
Yeah.
Have you seen her standing there in the hills of Shiloh? The wind blowing in her hair in the hills of Shiloh. Listening for the sound of
That'll do.
guns, listening for the rolling drums, and a man who never comes to the hills of Shiloh.
Nice 80s sounding bass there from Ben.
It's really interesting how huge that sounds when you consider it's a very light stringed instrument to start with, and then three other instruments. It's huge sound.
Yeah.
Sing in the hills of Shiloh, whisper to her wedding ring in the hills of Shiloh. Heard her humming soft and low. Poor Amanda does not know it was ended 40 years ago in the hills of Shiloh. It was ended 40 years ago in the hills of Shiloh.
I think that the interplay between the viola and the cello on that is really astonishing, and everybody plays and sings so beautifully on that. It's Max on backing vocals, and also Amy Newhouse Smith, and it's just it makes me very happy. It's an interesting thing, the fact that I couldn't sing when we recorded these, and I just keep listening to the backing tracks and keep thinking, man, those people knew the songs so well and responded so well to knowing, because we'd played them millions of times in the music room downstairs here, they knew what was being said, what was being expressed, and they
what I'm really glad about as well with that was that, because that forced us to have to do the vocals separate.
Yeah.
Because of you being ill when we did the original session, the vocal sound, I got to use a mic that I wouldn't have used if you were doing it with everybody else.
Yeah.
And I never use that mic. I don't use it for anyone else apart from you now. So it just works really well on your vocals. So I think it really benefited the album as a whole, because we got the vocals really close and
I'm absolutely sure that that's the case, that the fact that I was able to do, I think pretty much all the vocals except one were done as overdubs, and it does sound great. It really does. So well done, you.
It's on my I got the mic. I can't remember who. For some reason, I've got the name Matthew Watson in my head. Scottish guitarist. I think he used to play in
I know
Talbot
Matthew.
Trio.
Yeah.
Is it Matthew? Yeah.
Yeah.
I think.
Yeah.
Yeah, he did. He did a Bright. I'm pretty sure he did a Bright Phoebus gig. Anyway, I bought it off of him. I got two Lawson mics that are imported from Nashville. They're hand built in Nashville.
Yeah.
One's a 251 Telefunken copy, and the other's a Neumann U47 copy, and then there's a FET and a valve body, and then the two separate heads, and you can sort of interchange them. So it's pretty funky set of mics, and I barely use them really. I used them a bit on vocal with Nancy in the Transports maybe, or something like that. But it just, we did a test, didn't we, with a few. I think we had a U67 and a 87 and a 147, and then that. And my bee's knees.
I remember
the bee's
spending
knees was dodgy.
quite a bit of time walking up and down that line of mics and singing the same thing into all of them.
There might be one person out there watching that actually knows what any of those mics are, so worth mentioning.
Yeah, no, but there'll be a few more than that. It's great, love it. I was talking to my friend Rick Turner last night, who is so embroiled in the history of music in the music industry in California and elsewhere in the States. He worked with the Grateful Dead and Alembic and all kinds of people. And last night we were talking about the banjo pickup that I have in my banjo, which he and his son Eli made and designed. And I was saying, when are you going to get these made, Rick? Because every banjo player that's heard them wants one, and I could sell them for you. And he said, well, I'm trying to get them made now, and I've been talking to Telefunken. And I said, sorry. And a friend of his in the States has bought the old Telefunken company and name, and is making those old style mics again, and he's going to use components, Telefunken components for the banjo microphones. Some people would say too much for a banjo mic. Makes me happy. So first sessions also, but just me and Andy here to start with. This is a song that I wrote about my old friend, who I was lucky enough to play with when I lived in the States, Henry Gray. Henry Gray was a phenomenal blues piano player. I've found out lots more about him over the last year or so. He was born in Louisiana. Like so many people of his generation, he went to the Second World War, fought in the Philippines, came back, moved to Chicago, by which time he was already an accomplished keyboard player from church and from playing the piano wherever he could. And his hero was a man called Big Maceo Merriweather. And Maceo was one of the big stars of the pre-war Chicago blues scene. And he had a stroke, and he could only use, I believe, his right hand to play the piano. So one of Henry's first gigs when he moved to Chicago was he played with Big Maceo Merriweather, playing the bass lines for Maceo, who could still sing and could still play all this fancy stuff with his right hand. But Henry got to be his left hand, which I think is really a beautiful concept, actually. And Henry died on February the 22nd of this year, 2020, at the age of 95. And he'd only been a few months not playing. So good old Henry, what a man. This is Henry Gray and Zach the Cat with the very excellent Andy Cutting.
Henry Gray and Zach the Cat sat on the sofa all day long, watching Mississippi burning all day long. Mississippi burning all day long. Now I never saw such a thing in my life, a 32 bullet and a Barlow knife lying in the sofa, a big Barlow knife. There was a 32 bullet and a Barlow knife. Henry Gray and Zach the Cat in the university dining hall, talking about a mule collar hanging on the wall, talking about a mule collar hanging on the wall. Henry Gray says to me, I saw a copperhead moccasin bite my daddy. Henry Gray says to me, I saw a copperhead moccasin bite my daddy. And Henry Gray says to me, you got your black and blue runner and your stingaree. Henry Gray, he says to me, he says, all them snakes, they're out to get me.
Dom Flemons on the bones.
Gave me and Helen a set of bones each.
Henry
about
come
5 years ago. Still not
Henry
learned.
fought for his country in a foreign land.
Yeah, no.
And what
Not as easy as it
he's
sounds.
gone to play the piano in Chicago. I got my little 32 in my waistband. Don't want to hurt nobody, but he ain't gonna stand for no ass whooping. I ain't gonna stand. I don't want to hurt nobody, but I ain't gonna stand for no ass whooping. Henry Gray and Zach the cat, they sat on the sofa all day long, watching Mississippi burning all day long, watching Mississippi burning all day long.
Makes me really happy, that song. It's just, having had the privilege of working with Henry and getting to know him and the various musicians that he worked with was extraordinary, and he really was just a connection, to the history of the blues in such a deep way, and such an entertaining and funny man. I'm so pleased that I managed to get the bits about the snakes, and he stayed in my house in New York, which is where the song starts, and at the time I had a number of snakes, and Henry hated snakes. He didn't even want to know they were in the house. And he got very drunk and started to tell me scary snake stories. And they were scary. If you believed snakes were that malign, you wouldn't want to be in the same house as them. But I particularly like the verse that it comes from a live record that we did in Lafayette, Louisiana, where he said, just before we went on stage, he said, I left my camera in the car in the parking lot. And it's a pretty rough place. And Henry was just a little fella in his 70s. And I said, well, Henry, I'll come out with you, So, thinking I'd look after him. And he just put his hand in his back pocket back here, and he pulled out this little pistol. And he said, I always carries my piece, you understand. I don't want to hurt nobody, but I ain't going to stand for no ass whooping. I thought someday that should be in a song, and I got it in there, so makes me happy. The next one's a traditional song, and I've always loved the tune, and I've always loved the verse which gives us its title, Who's Gonna Shoe Your Pretty Little Foot? Who's Gonna Glove Your Hand? Which is a vagrant stanza. It's a verse that turns up in all kinds of songs, but initially it comes probably from the ballad The Lass of Loch Royal, which is ancient and very beautiful. And in some cases, this is the only bit that's left of the original ballad. It's also called Lord Gregory. There's fantastic versions of it sung under that title. And I wanted to do it, and I wanted to write some more lyrics for it. And in view of what's happening right now with coronavirus, in addition to the monstrous stupidity that is Brexit, the verse about doctors, Andy, is very appropriate right now. This is Who's Gonna Shoe Your Pretty Little Foot. This is played on my little 1931 Martin 00018, which is a godlike creation.
Who's gonna shoe your pretty little foot? Who's gonna glove your hand? Who's gonna kiss your red ruby lips when I'm in a far off land? And who will bind and stitch your wounds? Who'll see that you don't bleed? And who will count your every breath, bring you the care you need? Who's gonna tend the seeds you sow, all the treasures of this land? And who's gonna harvest row on row and bring them to your hand? What makes a people rich in truth? It's not illusion, greed and hate, but open doors and hearts and minds. They make a country great. Who's gonna shoe your pretty little foot? Who's gonna glove your hand? Who's gonna kiss your red ruby lips when I'm in a far off land?
That was from the first sessions, so the guitar and the fiddle and cello, that was played live. And again, it blows me away how beautifully they play with each other and how they build that. And then, of course, there's the little overdubs of Ben and the touch of John playing electric, and I think there's a little tiny bit of me playing slide on that too, and Max's vocal at the end there, which completely does my head in. Actually, I think
it's unmistakably Nancy on that as well, isn't it? A fiddle playing's like,
oh yeah,
you know, so Nancy, he's brilliant. Yeah, and
it's extraordinary.
And Andy's melodeon just he just like Andy often doesn't seem like Andy's. Sometimes you watch him and listen to him and you think, oh, he's not doing loads, but he's just doing loads, and he's just fills. So sounds like a string orchestra on that. You know, he's like,
he does. He's just putting in so much depth and build. I'm incredibly proud of what everybody did on these tracks, you know. I mean, it is incredible musicianship, and it's incredible sounding. I love the sound of that little guitar. I mean, if you really listen to what that guitar's doing, you know, I've got guitars that sound different, but I certainly don't have anything that sounds better, and I couldn't do, you know, a lot of the funky stuff. I couldn't do it on that guitar, but that is just perfect for something like that. Speaking of funky stuff, this next track is from those initial sessions also, and this really blows me away because this is played on a Taran guitar, which was brand new at the time, but completely and utterly was the right instrument to use on this. Everybody played again without hearing the vocals, but they had the map of where the vocals would be, and they just got the dynamics right. It's amazing. And this is one of two songs that I learned from the wonderful late lamented Hetty West. The next two tracks, in fact, Queen Jane and Joe Bowers. And Queen Jane is an American version of a totally brutal Scots ballad called The King's Daughter, Lady Jean. And I remember the first time I heard this, it kind of kicked off, and it was a great banjo playing that Hetty West accompanied it with. And I was thinking, it sounds like kind of a Tam Lin sort of thing. And then it just got darker and darker, and I thought, got to do that one, got to do it. So this is Queen Jane from those first sessions.
Tuning up there.
Yeah. Well, you know what, I'm like a bit of a stickler. We had to replace one of these because it buzzed.
Queen Jane, she sits in a chamber high. She's sewing a silken seam, and as she looked out at the merry green wood, she spied the green nut tree. She spied the green nut tree, and she's dropped her thimble at her heel, her needle at her toe, and away she run to the merry green wood to gather nuts and sloes, to gather nuts and sloes. And she scarce had come to the merry green wood and pulled nuts two or three, when a proud forester comes striding by, says, "Fair maid, leave those be, fair maid, leave those be. Why do you pull the nuts?" he says. "Why do you break the tree? Why do you come to the merry green wood without the leave of me, without the leave of me?" "Oh, I will pull the nuts," she says, "and I will break the tree, and I will come to the merry green wood without the leave of thee. I'll never ask leave of thee. Taken her by the middle small, and he gently laid her down. And when he had what he longed for, he raised her from the ground. He raised her from the ground. Woe be to you, proud forester, and an ill death may yours be, since I'm the king's young daughter. You'll pay for wronging me, you'll pay for wronging me. If you're the king's young daughter, I am his eldest son. Woe be to this unhappy hour, and the deed I've done, and the deed I've done. Oh, the first time that I come from sea, Janie was unborn, and I wish my gallant ship had sunk, and I'd been left forlorn, I'd been left forlorn. And the next time that I come from sea, you were on your nurse's knee. And the next time I come from sea, you're in this wood with me, you're in this wood with me. And I wish I'd never seen your face, I wish you'd never seen mine, and we'd never met in this merry green wood, and this deed would be undone, this deed would be undone. I wish my baby it was born, and on its nurse's knee, and I myself were dead and gone, with the green grass growing on me, the green grass growing on me.
Dynamic, that. It's just, again, it's incredible playing, you know. It just makes me really proud of the guys involved. They just nailed it.
I was just thinking I was just thinking what a shame it is that room's gone now, because the studio's closed down recently, and as I suspect lots will. The Foundry,
for good.
I think so, well, unless someone else takes the lease on. But, you know, it's because there's some great stuff recorded there. I think Pulp and maybe even the Long Pigs did some stuff there once upon a time. And it's just a really
but it was just amazing
big room, isn't it? You know? But it's great how the separation space, kind of, and it, even though you're all in the same space, the sort of separation and kind of spacing of it works really well, so you can all play together, but there's loads of control afterwards in the mix or whatever, and it great sound.
But you can hear the bigness of the room, and the sweetness of the room. Yeah. And again, overdubbing the vocal on it gave us such a lot of control, and gave me such a, I had such a good time singing all this stuff. And listening to it, there's that, the two verses in the middle where it just drops back to the guitar playing one chord and that percussive figure. And I'm sure you remember that we attempted to replace that because I thought it was wrong, and then we gave up because we decided that it wasn't wrong at all.
Right.
It was just me basically being uncomfortable about it, because it's very edgy, but it is right. In fact, it was just it scared me. It's fun when you think you're wrong and then you're not. Good stuff. So the next one, again from the first sessions, this is Joe Bowers, and this is played on my PRS Martin Simpson model, which also has a 1950s DeArmond soundhole pickup in it, and we put this into an amplifier, and again, you know, this everybody played along without a vocal, just with a map and an understanding of what the song is. And I like this very much indeed. I think it's a really funny song when you think about it, because people have pointed out, and I think rightly, that it was probably written as a slightly comedic song, but and it is tragicomic, you know, it really is. It is a funny song, but it's also a really moving song, and I like that. There's not a lot of that about. This is from the California Gold Rush. Somebody wrote it. It was a hit, and it was such a hit that it went straight into the tradition, so nobody knows who wrote it. It's called Joe Bowers.
My name, it is Joe Bowers, and I had a brother Ike, and I come from old Missouri, yes, all the way from Pike. I tell you how I left there and how I come to roam and leave my dear old mother so far away from home. I used to have a girl there, and her name was Sally Black, and I asked her if she'd marry me. She said it was a whack. So she to me, Joe Bowers, before we hitch for life, you have to find a little home to keep your little wife. Oh, Sally, dearest Sally, oh, Sally, for your sake, I will go to California and try to raise a stake. So she to me, Joe Bowers, now you're the man to win. Here's a kiss to bind the bargain, and she hugged a dozen in.
I love the orchestral nature of that. It's just
when I got to California, I hadn't nary a red, and I had such wolfish feelings, I wished myself quite dead. But the thought of my dear Sally soon made them feelings get, and whispered hope to Bowers, I wish I had it yet. When first I come to mining, I put in my biggest licks, and I come down on the boulders just like a ton of bricks. I work both late and early in rain and sun and snow. I was working for my Sally, it was all the same to Joe. At length I got a letter, it was from my brother Ike, and it come from old Missouri, yes, all the way from Pike. It had the damnedest news for me that I had ever read. It said Salad married the butcher, and the butcher's hair was red. I got another letter, it was from my brother Ike, and it come from old Missouri, yes, all the way from Pike. It wasn't very newsy, but this is what it said. It said that Salad had a baby, and the baby's hair was red. So now you've heard the story all about this sad affair, about Sal marrying the butcher and the baby having red hair. Whether it was a girl or a boy child, the letter never said. It only said the baby's hair was inclined to be red.
What an odd little song that is. Very strange. So, Joe Bowers. There's something so, to me, so very beguiling about the sound of that gently amplified slide guitar mixed in with the strings and the box and the big bass. You know, it's I certainly will not be it won't be the last time I make noises like that, Andy. I think makes me feel nice. The next one is from in fact this is the first one we did on the first session. So this was done the first day at the Foundry, and it's me playing back to the amplified banjola, and this was a song that I wrote years ago, actually, when I still lived in the States, 20 odd years ago, and I rewrote the lyrics. And it was interesting because I've always really loved the chorus of the song, which is based on an expression that people use in the States, and I think it's a very good expression. And I wanted to re-record it, and I realised that if I was going to re-record it, I had to write more appropriate lyrics. So I rewrote the lyrics, and it means a lot to me. This song, it's called "Fool Me Once."
Come and watch me dance with my own shadow. I know that's what you'd like to see. Fool me once, shame on you. Fool me twice, shame on me. I watch my face in a barroom mirror, etched in crystal, lit and lost. And I saw the soundtrack to my changes drift behind me like a ghost. Come and watch me dance with my own shadow. I know that's what you'd like to see. Fool me once, shame on you. Fool me twice, shame on me. Cowboy songs and crossroads deals, same old stories in my head. And here I am, and all alone in a downstairs room in a single bed. Come and watch me dance with my own shadow. I know that's what you'd like to see. Fool me once, shame on you. Fool me twice, shame on me. I found no romance in empty bottles.
John's electric. It just sounds like a little kind of organ, doesn't it?
You keep on fire until you're empty to kill the fear.
You got Dobro on this as well. I mean.
Come and watch me dance with my own shadow. I know that's what you'd like to see. Fool me once, shame on you. Fool me twice, shame on me. Come and watch me dance with my own shadow. No, that's what you like to see. Fool me once, shame on you. Fool me twice, shame on me.
Just really, I love the sounds of that track. I love those little understated backing vocals, you know, and I think you could have probably edited a bit more of the dobro out, Andy, to be honest. But there you go. You know, I'll let you off.
I had two eyes bearing into the back of my skull at that point.
Did you?
What I quite like about that is, I mean, I have no idea how to count that. I mean, I'm not great at that kind of stuff anyway, but the way it pushes and pulls and the sort of sections that kind of goes into tempo and out of tempo, it's like, you know, slightly different points. Really, really great how everyone stuck with that, especially without the vocal in the session.
Yeah, I mean, it's again incredibly great musicianship on the part of the strings and Andy, you know, cutting and Ben, of course, who just comes in and just nails those points that need nailing. But it's a funny piece of music because it's very circular and very odd, I think. So yeah.
Remember that? There's one of the tracks on that went on Seeded. I think it's on Seeded. I don't think it's on the main album. I think it's on the bonus album. If anybody's out there and wanting to buy it, get both.
Which you should.
Yeah, which you should. And the second album is all instrumentals, isn't it? And there was a track on there that we tried to do with Ben at Tesla, and no one could count it apart from you. Which one was it?
Yeah. I don't know. I just it happens. It happens quite often.
It's like a New Orleansy kind of thing going on, and I'll have to find which track it was, but I can't remember which one it is now. But in the end, I think you played the bass on it.
I did. Oh, it's Mama Tain't Long Before Day, and I was saying, well, it's just kind of like a bit like a tango or something, and I've actually said that to 3 different really great bass players, and they all looked at me and gone, no, no, don't hear it at all. So I ended up playing it myself. Yeah. I've been accused of not being able to play in time. I can play in time. I just choose to play in weird time quite a lot. So, what can I say? The next one is, I think this was recorded on the Little Old Martin as well. I think it was, and I think this was eventually done at the it was done at Woodworm. And this is, I really, really like this song. It means a great deal to me. This is one of my songs about birds, and it doesn't really need much in the way of introduction, but it's the one track that's just me and the guitar, I think, if I recall. It's called Kingfisher. definitely the Little Martin. It's just got such a fat top end.
Did we maybe do this in Tesla?
Huh?
Did we do this in Tesla with the vocal live?
It does have a live vocal, yeah. I think so. Where is it?
The ivy owl calls the night to rest. Small birds carol the creeping dawn. Jackdaws they crackle across the grey sky, and all is well on this frosty morn. The brightest jewel I ever saw was mounted in the clear blue sky below the boastful castle wall, where the river Heron lies. A perfect winter travelling day, cold lighted by the palest sun, and just a little darkened by his lordship's cruel and wittering guns.
It was done. That was one of the very last things that we did.
Under the bridge on the Bradford stream, by Shepherd Wheel and Wire Mill Dam, the flash of blue against the green tells me how alive and lucky I am. The ivy owl calls the night to rest. The small birds carol the creeping dawn. Jackdaws crackle across the grey sky, and all is well on this frosty morn.
My little attempt at the dawn chorus there. You can tell it's that Little Martin guitar because it's got bar frets. Those of you who are not familiar with bar frets are just little narrow, tall frets rather than the crowned modern frets are just like that, which means that they're quite high and you can get really great vibratos. And that very last note on that makes me very happy indeed. It's got a really sweet little vibrato on it.
It's another.
There are no sweet.
Sorry, I was going to say, and it's another great sounding room that on Tesla Studios, and you can hear it on that. I think I had a pair of room mics up that you can hear just a little bit in the background, and it's got a great view of the Sheffield Mosque out of the window and the skyline, isn't it? And the only slight issue is occasionally there is a saw pressing machine in the room above you that kind of cuts metal saws quite loudly.
It contributes unwanted percussive effect. It has to be said.
There'll definitely be a saw pressing noise somewhere on the album. I haven't heard it yet, but it'll be there somewhere.
No doubt, yeah. Could be on the next track, actually. There's I wanted this song. I wrote it, and while I was writing it, I played it to Richard Hawley, and Richard Hawley said, "Oh, what you need to do with that on the chorus, you need to get the kind of echo on the chorus." So I went, "Okay, right. Do you want to come and do that?" And he said, "Yeah, all right." And then he forgot. Meanwhile, I'd also thought it would be great to get Dom Flemons to play Bones on this track, but Dom was incredibly busy and couldn't do it, and obviously, we had to get him into a studio in the States. So I'd kind of written off the idea of Richard doing it, and I'd written off the idea of Dom doing it, but I had not written off the idea of getting the best New Orleans-style clarinet player. I asked Martin Taylor, my friend, the jazz player Martin Taylor, I said, "Martin, do you know somebody who can do really hot New Orleans clarinet?" And he said, "Yeah, absolutely." And there he is in the studio. His name's Alan Barnes, and he arrived, we booked him at 11 o'clock on what was supposed to be the last day. He arrived on the dot at 11 o'clock, just with a little black box like this, and he honestly looked like he'd come to read the meter, I thought. He just, he's really unassuming, and the little black box, and he walked in, and within minutes we were all falling about because he's incredibly funny. Andy set him up, and Andy put two microphones, one like that way, one that way, and Alan sat down and said, "That's right, that's how you do it," and smiled, and we ran the track. And I think he only played it twice, and he probably didn't. Yeah, he didn't actually need to play it the second time because he'd already totally nailed it the first time, and it was so wonderful to just have somebody come in and do this thing that I'd heard in my head. I had it in my head for ages and ages and ages, and he nailed it. And then the next thing was, I played it to Richard Hawley, who said, "Why didn't you get me to sing on that?" And I said, "Well, I will." And he said, "Well, do." And so we arranged to get Richard in. Meanwhile, Dom Flemons got in touch and said, I can do those tracks if you want. So this is Neo, which is, it would have been a single, except I refused to take a word out of the first verse. So it didn't get a lot of airplay on the radio. You'll see why. But this has Richard Hawley on backing vocals, Alan Barnes on clarinet, Dom Flemons on bones, and also the lovely Chris Weil and Julie Matthews on backing vocals. So this is based on an old song called Ragtime Millionaire.
All the little people standing round, come and taste some of my trickle down, that's what I said. It's just me pissing on your head. All the little people better listen to me, I'm a neoliberal billionaire.
Richard Branson's song, this one.
A neoliberal billionaire. All the little people better listen to me, I'm a neoliberal billionaire. Now, I don't care if you're sick or well, and I don't care if your life is hell. I'm gonna wreck your national health, all for the sake of my irrational wealth. All you little people, listen to me, I'm a neoliberal billionaire. I'm a neo. I'm a neo. I'm a neo. A neoliberal billionaire. All you little people better listen to me, I'm a neoliberal billionaire. so much to me that I hijack your democracy. I use my money to buy your voice. I don't believe you deserve a choice. All you little people better listen to me. I'm a neoliberal billionaire. I'm a neo. I'm a neo. I'm a neo. A neoliberal billionaire. All you little people better listen to me. I'm a neoliberal billionaire. I'm a neo. I'm a neoliberal billionaire. All you little people better listen to me. I'm a neoliberal billionaire. All you little people better listen to me. I'm a neoliberal billionaire.
I can't listen to that without just laughing. the clarinet part just makes me smile and laugh. It's great.
I've just got Dom in my head as well, like with his hat on and spinning around.
Oh yeah, giving it that. Yeah. An artiste. What an artiste. Well, I'm sure we'll work with Dom again at some point. It's got to happen. He's so good. So last track, and I said at the beginning that the record was going to be made earlier, and it was delayed because of the passing of my lovely father-in-law, Roy Bailey, and because of his passing, it became a different record too. I think, choice of material was expanded, and this song I wouldn't have recorded. But I'm so pleased that I did. This is Rob Johnson's song called More Than Enough. And I worked out this arrangement to accompany Roy, who, of course, was just a fantastic singer and a joy to play for. And when he was dying, I would sit by his bedside in the hospice and play for him. And one afternoon he was sedated and had oxygen tubes up his nose, and I was playing this, and he just regained consciousness, and he sang the last verse of this song to my accompaniment in the hospice room there, and it was so profoundly moving. It was absolutely staggering, and it was the last time I ever heard him sing, and probably the last time he ever sang. And so I really wanted to do this for him. So this is More Than Enough, and it's a brilliant piece of writing. It's just the truth.
There's always the money for missiles and tanks. There's always the money for generals and banks. There's always the money for new ways to kill, but a limited budget for you if you're ill. Yes, there's always enough for a war. So there's never enough for the poor. There's always the money for tunnels and roads, for opera and ballet. But what about homes, for MPs' expenses and fat subsidies? But there's never enough for nurseries, and the well-off, they always take more. So there's never enough for the poor. There's always the money for tests they can pass or fail you for not being white middle class. There's always the goodies for those with most greed, but there's never enough for those in most need. There's a pay rise if you're on the board, so there's never enough for the poor. Consider how little of life that we know. We bring nothing, take nothing, pass through and go. We are all of us poor when it comes to the night, in need of the darkness, in need of the light. If we'd learn to want less and love more, there'd be enough for the poor. If we'd learn to want less and love more, there'd be enough for the poor. For there's more than enough for us all.
That's all, folks. I got a couple of words wrong in More Than Enough, but I don't get them wrong anymore.
Well, thanks for sharing the album, Martin. It's great.
Total pleasure. Thank you for helping make the album in such a profound way. It's I'm really proud of it. Really, I mean, I haven't listened to it now in months and months and months, but I'm just proud of what everybody did on it. You know, that just listening to the creativity involved. It's just joyous and very, at times, very funny too. Remembering people, you know, getting those things right and occasionally getting them wrong. It's great, and I've got it all written down here too. So, in this book, look, Tesla. It's on this album.
Show
You
it
can
to
get
that
it
other
from
camera.
my website.
Show it to the other
Oh,
camera.
this camera. Oh, yeah. Sorry, camera. There you go.